In step 1, we created a new expense report. Step 2 is to add your expenses to the report. In step 1, I had you minimize the claimed expense section, so now we would like to restore it here. And as you can see, the header section is also still open. Because there is a new in the Manage Expense Report section and new under Claimed Expenses, it's highly recommended that you also minimize this section so that you don't accidentally choose New in this section. Doing that will create an entirely new expense report. So let's minimize that section, and now all you will see is the claimed expenses. You'll start with the Details tab and choose your category. Then your expense type. And if you had a commercial credit card charge that goes with this lodging, you would select it by clicking here and selecting the appropriate charge. If you only had one location in your expense report, this section would populate to that location. In this example, we added 2 different locations, so I need to click on the magnifying glass and choose the appropriate location. Notice that I have start date of 11/7 and end date of 11/9. Depending on the category, additional tabs may populate in this section. Go through them in the order that they are listed. We'll check on payment method. If I was an employee that had a commercial card, I would have 2 options here to select from. Please note that employee paid means that you paid with your personal funds and are requesting reimbursement. Company paid means that you have paid for it with your company credit card. So we'll go ahead and enter the total amount for our lodging, and then we'll go to room rates. And for this example, I'll type in the full amount and won't enter the tax rate. We can go to other lodging expenses. I don't have any, but if you did, you would click New and add your expenses. And last, we'll click on Attachments, and we have to click New to create a new line. Click on Attachment Type, Expense Receipt. If you were missing a receipt, you would select Missing Receipt, and you would type in the reason that your receipt is missing. In this case, we do have the receipt, so we'll click on Upload Attachment, Browse, and we'll select our file and upload. Last thing we need to do is go back to the Details tab and select our allocations down below. First, I want to look at my per diem rates, and I could see that my lodging per diem is $127 per day. That tells me that I am under ceiling, so I will choose the Charge Allocations Under Ceiling link. Next, I will click on Charge Type and select Lodging because it is not lodging unallowable. After I've added the charge allocation, I need to save and continue to save this expense. You should see a message here that says that it was successfully completed, and you can close out that window. Now we will add a second expense to this expense report by clicking New again in the Claimed Expense section. We'll start with the Details tab and select our category, expense type, and then we're going to change the start date on this one because I only had a rental car for 1 day of my trip. I'll go to Amount, select my pay method again, and put in the amount of my rental car. None of it was personal or unallowable, so I will leave those blank. Next, I'll go to Attachments, select New, Attachment Type, Expense Receipt, Upload Attachment, and I'll select my receipt for that. Click Upload. Go back to the details screen. And down below, this section stayed open, so we don't need to click on any of the links. We'll go ahead and choose our charge type, and we're going to choose allowable. And then we need to save and continue the expenses. Again, you should see a message down here saying it was successfully completed, and you can close that little message window. Since we are done with this section down here, we can also close it to clean up the screen. You can toggle back and forth between your expense on each line by clicking the arrows, and it'll take you back and forth. You can also look at them in table view and see them listed like that. If you need to view an attachment for one of your expenses, you can simply go to the attachments on the expense line that you need to look at. Highlight the line, click View Attachment, and then you can open it from there. You cannot add more than one receipt. The system will allow you to do so, but adding a second receipt will override the first receipt. Notice when we're on Amount or Attachments, the New button goes away and you are unable to add more claimed expenses. So you always want to go back to the Details tab. And there it is, the New button is populated again in case you need to add an additional expense. Now we are ready to submit our expense report. I will minimize the claimed expenses since I am finished entering them, and I will maximize my expense report header. We are now ready to submit this expense report, but if you need to void it, simply click on the void. We're going to go ahead and submit it. You will receive a message saying it's successfully completed, and you can close that section. Also, your status will be changed to submitted. The expense report can now be reviewed and approved by your supervisor. You will receive an email notification once your supervisor has either approved or rejected your expense report. To see the tasks and the status of each task on this expense report, we can click on Workflow to see the list. Here you could see that the first step was to create it. The employee did that. Submit it. We have the attach. Over here you can see that it is required and it has been completed. The next step is for the primary supervisor to approve it. That task is still pending. And then the backup administrators review the receipts and approve it by clicking on the record. Please notice again that when you are on a tab other than the first one, the New button does not show here. If you want to create another expense report, you must first go to Purpose, and then that button will apply. You click New, and you start your next expense report.